Yeah, I think everything's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Oh, hello and welcome to Serendipity Story Time. I have a beautiful guest here with me, and her name is Dr. Rani Bora. I am going to get Rani to introduce herself, but Rani and I met a few years ago at one of our, probably the Viva event in Spain, I think is where we spent some time together. And I've recently just joined, Rani has set up a mental wealth mastery community. And I saw this advertised, and it was like, oh yeah, that sounds like something that would be just really up my street, so to speak.
Yeah, I was so excited when you joined. I said, yeah, Amanda has joined. Amazing.
So Rani, with all your gorgeousness, would you just introduce yourself? Tell us whatever you want us to know about you and what this is about, what this little community is about.
Okay, thank you so much, Amanda. So my name is Rani. I'm a psychiatrist. I consider myself a holistic psychiatrist, and I'm also a wellness coach. And the reason I met Amanda was because we share similar we have similar passion, and it's about seeing mental health rather than seeing mental ill health. So I think I'll just summarize myself saying I'm someone who's constantly looking at what's what's already there that doesn't need to be fixed. And I work in the traditional mental health setting, and I have been trained as a traditional psychiatrist. So I had a big aha moment when I came across the three principles for the inside out understanding. And I saw for the first time that although my intentions were very good and I considered myself a recovery oriented psychiatrist, I was actually trying to fix the person because I thought there was something wrong with the person. And the thing is, obviously, there are symptoms that that we need to look at, and especially if someone is really, really unwell, then we need to support them. But I think in the long run, the people really, the best thing we can ever do for anyone is to show them to their, who they truly are. Realize for people's pennies to drop in a way, to know that, they are whole already, they're complete already. And that's what my work is about, and that's what I love doing. So in terms of this community that you have joined, it's called Wealth Mastery Community. It's a membership community. And Suraj, my husband, who's also a holistic psychiatrist and a wellness coach, the two of us have joined hands, and we wanted to do something different for people with mental health issues. A lot of the challenges that we see is that when people are poorly, they come to mental health services and they get some treatment, and it could be traditional treatment like medication and CBT, and then you go off. But a lot of people take medication because they think that medication is going to fix them, to make them feel better. But there's more and more evidence coming up than actually, people really need to realize what the medications are for and what the medications are not for. So there's something about people having this misunderstanding that, there's a chemical imbalance in the brain and the medications fix the chemical imbalance. I mean, that's a myth that's been busted now for good. And yet this myth is still continuing. A lot of people will say, well, I take my medication because I have got a chemical imbalance. And you can't blame anyone. It's also doctors. We have been primed to say that, there's a chemical imbalance in the brain, and this antidepressants and other medications fix the chemical imbalance. Like, it's not straightforward, and nothing's been proven after decades of having, doing research on this topic. So we are really passionate, my husband and I, to give people who are going through mental health difficulties the right support, the right information about medication. We are not saying medication is good or bad. Well, you need to know what medications do and can't do. You definitely need to know the side effects of medications, what you're signing up for once you take medication. And also the most important thing is that, when you want to come off medication, not everyone can just stop, can gradually taper it in a month or so. Some people might take years, months or years, to something called the withdrawal symptoms. And so there's so much of lack of information in the right place. But I don't think it's all about medications. What we wanted to do is, we know, a lot of people, I mean, they come to us. It would be sometimes it's professionals like coaches and therapists saying, "Oh, I have this person who is on medication. Can you help them?" And I don't know what to do because I don't have the understanding to help them. And there's sometimes people come to us who are on medications and they say, "I'm looking for a psychiatrist. I'm looking for a doctor who would be willing to listen to my story and help me come off this medication because they're not helping me." And we don't have much time. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to empower coaches and therapists and professionals who work with people with mental health difficulties, or who might want to help people who are not getting any support, by upskilling them, to give them something that they can then confidently say, "I understand about medication. I'm not a prescriber. I'm not going to prescribe medication. I'm not also going to tell you to stop medication, but I can guide you to the right information." But not just that, Amanda, they also will be pointing people to the true essence, that they are not broken. So that's and obviously we look at lifestyle and modification and everything else that we need to do to look after the body, because we cannot look after the body. So that's very important. So that's in a nutshell. I can go on and on, but I am sure you'll have questions, Amanda. So I'll stop there.
Because I love that as well, because exactly, actually, there's an invitation here, I guess, for anybody who's listening to this video. If they're interested, we'll put the details below. And if they're right to join this membership, it's still open. Is that right, Rani?
Yeah, but absolutely, absolutely, Amanda. And the thing is that we are taking founding members. We will be stopping pretty soon, because we can't have founding members forever and ever. So we just started last month, and this is our second month. So we are still taking in founding members. The benefits of the founding members is that we are doing more hand holding. We are giving more intense one-to-one support. There is this community we are building up of like-minded people. And also it is a very heavily discounted price at the moment for founding members, because we just want to have more and more people say, "I need to do something about what I see as not acceptable, as something lacking, and I want to be able to bridge the gap, and I just want to be of service, but I don't know how." So this is why we are taking founding members for a bit longer, but it will end at some point, and then we will close the founding members. So we are inviting people, if you're very interested, or you're passionate about in alleviating mental health suffering, and you know that you want to learn, you want to be part of something bigger, then definitely the invitation is open.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And they can call you and contact you and have a chat. The details will be below. So Rani, this is so close to my heart, because, as you know, I worked in an addiction centre for
Yes.
a few years. Head of clinic there as admissions manager, and I think I was shocked to see the amount of medications that people came in with. I was shocked to see how long they'd been on their medication. I was shocked to hear stories of how people were much worse after they'd been on medication for a long time. This is coming from them, and how they thought that they were before. And I think I obviously came across people who were at the height of their different addictions and at their different um, anxiety levels, to the point where they went, "I need help, and I need residential help. Like, I need to go somewhere." So obviously I'm talking with people that really knew that there was something off, very off in their world, and they needed that support. So it really, when this group came along, I was like, wow, because I think there is something about, if you are a counselor, a therapist, a coach, you're going to hear that story. You're going to hear that story again and again. And I was really aware that I had a bit of a bias, like I told you, of like, oh, meds are bad, meds, oh my goodness. And of course, I don't believe that to be fully true, that all medication is bad and wrong. I just have this desire that everybody understood how their mind worked and how their psychological system worked, before medication being the number one answer. So I think, we are part of a community that have got this dream. We've got this mission to help share that what we see is something so magical that helps us to understand how our mind works.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll tell you something about how the mind works. The other thing that's so fascinating is that um, there is this placebo effect in medication. Yeah. And a lot of the trials have shown that when it comes to mild and moderate depression, the placebos are, the antidepressants are not any better than the placebos. In fact, someone might be taking an antidepressant and it might be having a placebo effect. So placebo effect is not bad. All it means is that the mind is extremely powerful. And if you believe that something is going to work, then it is going to work when you think that this is, oh, I'm taking something, so it will make me work. But what if people knew how the mind works? People knew their true essence. People really got that they were not broken. And from that place, they could still continue to take the medication as prescribed, for as long as the need, as long as it's not taking, giving any untoward effects. But at some point, when they really feel that, okay, it's time to come off medication, they will continue to do well. And one disclaimer very quickly, Amanda, is one thing that if I can give a message for people, irrespective of whether they join a community or not, is that medications, all psychotropic medications especially, they're so strong that they should never be discontinued abruptly. Never. So anyone listening here and hearing you and me and saying, oh my goodness, I might as well think about my medication, I might as well stop my medication. Absolutely not. Please don't do it. I have seen people have severe withdrawal symptoms, which are then misdiagnosed as having a relapse of their mental health issues. So always have to, discuss with your professional, and it has to be done very, very, very gradually. Otherwise, people still have protracted withdrawal symptoms. So that's a message I want to give, not just the people who might be on any medication, especially antidepressants, but also coaches and counselors who might be working with people. And if they hear them say that, oh, I'm going to stop my medication, your alarm bells should be, ringing and say, actually, I don't think it's a good idea. Actually, even if you, taper it off 2 weeks or so, because you have been on it for 5 years, you can't do that. You really need to reconsider and sort of speak to your professional, speak to your doctor about it. So that's the message I would like to give out while we are having this conversation.
And that is, it's obviously that's just great advice, because what I also saw was when people actually realized they were ready to do something about it, they also had a panic, like, oh, I feel so bad now, I'm going to feel even worse surely when I come off it. That there was this upping of medication, like they wanted more, thinking or believing that more medication would make them better quicker or something, like you say. And so I think, I understand that doctors have got big hearts and doctors are trained in the way they're trained, and there's often a lack of time, right? With when people go to visit the doctor, and it's wonderful that some doctors have access to refer people for more, for people to talk to or whatever it is. But I think that having these kind of conversations and having more people in the world, like you say, all the helpers in the world of mental health, being able to really support with love, really, really support with love, seeing that wellness inside of people, like you said, seeing their innate resilience, and for us to learn, okay, well, when is, how does it really work? How can we support them? How I think I learned a lot working at the recovery centre about medication, but and there's a, I don't know, an invitation there that there's a lot to learn, and people can learn a lot and be so much more supportive.
Yes.
It's a scary time for people, right? If they have now attached their well-being to medication, then actually letting go of that is scary. Like if we attach our well-being to anything.
Yeah. And I completely understand that. And I think doctors are also very worried about people coming off medication. In fact, sometimes people say, well, you have to take this medication for the rest of the life. And at the same time, we haven't got research for, long-term research showing that it actually is beneficial to take it for the rest of your life. Uh, Amanda, while you're speaking, a metaphor came to me. I was on Twitter the other day, and this was a medical doctor, actually. So it was a psychiatrist. There was a comment about a post where they're saying that if we see a complex problem, we add more and more and more rather than not adding more and taking off some. So I think it's the same with medication. So when we see someone, we think someone is having a complex problem, we keep adding more and more and more. And this doctor was saying very wisely that, okay, the danger of polypharmacy, like too many medication, but also people should not be allowed to prescribe unless they know how to deprescribe. And we have not been taught to deprescribe. And then another psychiatrist then tweeted that, yeah, it's like driving a car. No one should be able to allowed to drive a car if they can only go forward, if they can't reverse, or if they can't do parallel parking. And then I jumped into the tweet, that Twitter conversation, and I said, absolutely, I agree with that. Prescribing medication is like driving the car forward. Okay, so we are driving forward. So reversing the car is like being able to deprescribe safely, not just say, oh, you can stop this medication, because I know some patients have been told just to stop medication, you'll be fine. No, absolutely not. So you need to be able to deprescribe. Parallel parking means that you need to know if the person is taking more than one medication. You need to know the interactions between the different medications. So I think this is a really lovely metaphor to use. Like, so do the prescribers know this? Otherwise, they should not be allowed to drive the car. But also, perhaps the coaches and a therapist or anyone who wants to help people, they are also starting to observe the what the people who are coming to their coaching or the counseling, whether these people, when they start the medication, are they being informed, or have they been given enough support to come off the medication if they feel better, rather than getting stuck on the medication because no one wants to help them. And are they taking too many medications that might be interfering with the ability to connect to the therapist in the therapeutic space? Because then if you and me, we share about the inside out understanding, or we point people to innate health and they are like half asleep, or they can't concentrate, or they any of those side effects, then it's going to have an impact, right? So I think it's really important for people to know all this and say, I'm not just going to settle for saying, oh, I don't know about the medication. My role as a therapist, as a coach, as a healthcare professional, is to find out more and be part of a supportive community, be part of a answer rather than be part of the problem and saying, oh, we have such a lot, we are in a mess. Rather than saying that, let's all be together, be part of a problem, or part of a solution. I beg your pardon.
And I like, it's like we would call it, really, we see it being like what we might call a subtractive psychology. It's like a
I know, that was coming to me.
Subtractive psychiatry, right?
Yeah. Oh, wow. I never thought of subtractive psychiatry, because I know Jamie Smart talks about subtractive psychology, subtractive psychiatry.
But it kind of is, it reminds me of that. And I tell you, the other thing that I was so interested to learn so much about, Rani, was the dangers of mixing certain things. Like so many people that I saw who were within treatment were mixing alcohol with their prescribed meds. Some of them were doing it on purpose to try and get a buzz out of something, or they had worked out how to mix this with this gives a different effect. They were taking them for some sort of a hit and a high. And I remember having a conversation with you recently where you talked about, what happens is as well that people don't realize, when they're actually drinking alcohol, then it stops anyway the workings of the medication.
Well, it has a numbing effect as well, isn't it, the alcohol? But also, what we do say is not to take the medication at the same time as the alcohol. But then what people do is that when they go on a drinking spree, they're saying, well, I'm drinking, so I'll miss my, I'll just skip my antidepressant. But even one day of skipping a medication can bring in withdrawal symptoms, and they feel, oh my goodness, the medication, I thought the medication was not working, but actually it was working, so I better, better go back on the medication. But that's not, that's a misunderstanding. It's not the medication is working, it's just that the medications have very strong, are extremely strong, and then they get withdrawal symptoms, and then people panic. And people don't tell us the truth that they have been skipping medication because they are taking alcohol, because they are being, they are just trying to, use common sense. Like, they know that this mixing is not good, but at the same time, I would say that you don't take it at the same time, but you can't miss your medication if you have been prescribed that, because that's going to add another problem.
And it is, that just reminds me actually of you know, working at the treatment center, working with people all the time. It's very normal for people not to tell us the truth of what they've been taking, because they get their packet from the doctor, and they can take as many as they want at night, right? So they've been prescribed maybe one medication for night, but they've always taken two. Sometimes they've taken four. It's like
More is better, sort of thing.
well, in their well, they've just got
Yeah.
used to it, right? Or the fear of not going to sleep or being left with their own thoughts. What they do is they double their sleeping tablet or whatever it is. So they've got themselves in a real kerfuffle, and so actually being honest. It's like any of us going to do one of these tests where they ask you, how many times a week do you exercise? How many times a week do you drink? How many units? People tend to just tweak it a little bit because they don't want to
Because
look.
we want to,
Yeah.
exactly. No hard feelings, nothing different, except that we want to portray a better side of us. Like, okay, yeah, we have been listening, we have been going to the gym, or yeah, like that. And people, I think people are not intentionally doing it, because I think people also feel a lot of like low self-esteem and low self-confidence, and in a way maybe they know that's not good, so they not say it. But then if you don't say it to us, then we would just assume the medication is not working, so we'll increase the dose, or we'll change the medication. And every time there's a change in medication, there's a switch in medication, or increase in dose or reduction in dose, even that can, like I said to you earlier, that they can still destabilize the person, and then they will think, oh my goodness, my ill health is worse than I actually thought. But actually it's nothing to do with the ill health. It's, because they are having a medication in the system. So that's something to know. But you said something else that I really liked. You said when you were working in the addiction center, you said people might, and you're just giving a hypothetical situation that people might be popping more medication, more sleeping pills, because they don't want to be alone with their thoughts, with their troubled thoughts. And that's a biggie. I think we are trying to medicate our suffering. And would it not be wonderful for people to just understand the root cause of suffering, and also understand the root cause of well-being? Then they would actually be able to say, rather than going for another medication because they can't sleep, or another medication because they still feel low or anxious, then they can really look at their experience and where the experiences are coming from. And actually, the more they explore that, the more they will discover the innate health.
And Rani, I'm sure, just like you, my heart goes out to anybody that's been caught up, with the innocence of a misunderstanding of how our mind works, grown up with, whatever adversities have happened in their worlds, whatever story, we've got big stories, there are big things have happened in lots of our lives. And they've got to the point where they felt that they were doing the right thing for asking for help, and then they've got themselves in a pickle, and they've got themselves and I don't think, it's not an easy time for people. It's not easy for people to ask for help. It's not easy for people to come and talk to somebody sometimes. But it's wonderful for me to know that these communities are still growing, and people, the care is there, that the moment that people are ready to come, or we're here, like in that way, we're here, and we want to help you by pointing you back to, like you say, everything you've already got inside. We're not here to fix you. We're not the heroes here, and we're, the wisdom inside any of us is inside everybody, right? So we want to share that wisdom, point them back to their own wisdom, and that feels good, right? That feels like a good thing, which I think is why most people went into the game of therapy,
Yeah.
doctors, nurses,
Yeah.
you know, people that have gone and worked for charities, people that work in support centres.
Yeah.
Lots of people give lots of time. Lots
Yeah.
of people want to help. I think at our basic human nature, we want to help. Like
Yeah.
we, you know, that's natural for us. And to see somebody, if anybody who's listening to this has themselves is got up, but has someone in their family or a friend, and they see that, you know, they see people suffering, right? You know, they see that's, it's not nice for us as humans to watch people we love and care about suffering.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
No, it isn't. And the thing is that once we see someone suffering, um, the thing is that most of us think about, oh, this person is suffering and, you know, they need to be supported. But we also come from a fix them mode as well, very innocently, if we don't understand about our true nature. And that's what I used to do. And, you know, I can still fall into doing that, and I catch myself doing that. I think someone recently, I spoke to a three principles coach, and they were saying, like, in the past it was like people would shy away because of the stigma of mental health, mental health issues. They would not talk at all about, and keep their, you know, keep themselves like shy away from sharing. And because of the campaign and anti-stigma campaign about, you know, it's okay not to be okay, and please speak, you know, please talk to someone. But then when people speak, it's like, oh, there's something wrong with you, we need to be fixed. And she said, would it not be wonderful to change that to sort of, yes, you need to be open about your difficulties, but then we are pointing people to innate health rather than saying you need to be fixed because you are suffering. So you need to be, actually, you need to understand about where your suffering comes from and about your true health and resilience. So I think that's what she said about shifting the paradigm very gently. So we're still supporting people, we're still doing what we do in our own way, but really looking at the shifting from, you know, you're damaged or you're broken, you need to be fixed, to you may be lost but you're not broken.
Yeah.
And when you're lost, and it's okay, we all get lost, and let us, you know, point you to the true home, the true source of well-being.
And I love that. It's like in one way or another, we're all leading each other home, right? It's like we just want to. It's like that kind of, you know, I picture that child that's lost, or the older person that's, you know, got dementia or whatever, and you just want to, you want to take them home. Yeah, you want to, of course you want to. And I think, you know, what we've got, it just feels for me like it's a wonderful understanding. It's been life changing for me personally, and like you, I could see the rescuer in me, and that's not what we're here for. We don't need to rescue people. We just want to share, right? We just want to share what we've heard.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And in this community, I loved what you said, that we are all leading each other home. And I think that part of being this community, and it only started last month, but already I feel that there's so much support in the community. All the members are so forthcoming. And yesterday, one of the members, Steph, that he just shared about this understanding, and we all were like, you know, it felt like we were all connected. And it was a good reminder of what we each are doing in our own lives, and how we see things, and how our patients, our clients, can be our greatest teacher. And it's just sharing that understanding, sharing that connection, and it just felt so right. This community to me feels like the next thing that needed to happen, and it just came through Suraj and me, and we are so thankful that Amanda, you joined us.
Oh, and I'm so grateful to be with you and to have you guys as support, you know, for us is amazing. And we can ask you questions, and, you know, you make videos, questions and answers. We get together twice a month, you know, one of the members talking, you guys, you know, we're lucky. So let's
Oh, thank
see
you.
what magic we can conjure up between us all. Rani, you know, I really appreciate your time. I have much respect for you as a doctor and as a friend. And so I just want to say it's an exciting journey. Thank you. Yeah, thank you from my heart to yours.
Yeah, no, thank you.
If
Thank you
you want
too.
to come join us and be part of this community, then look at the details below. or if you just want to speak to, both our details will be below. If you want to reach out to Dr. Rani Bora or myself, then yeah, we'll speak to you when we do. Okay, love. Have a great evening.
Thank
Okay,
you. You too.
bye.
Bye.